Okay, we're live. Hi there. Hi, everyone. Just making sure my sound is good. Let's see. Okay, it looks like the microphone is on. It looks like there is sound. I will cut this out at the edit, and the volume is up all the way. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Just a quick reminder to turn off your cell phones, put them on silent before we start the program. So tonight's presentation is Rachel Catlett. She's the owner of Brown Dog Farm with her husband, Ed Hicks. They started the farm 8 years ago. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that Ren and I think Nicole and maybe a couple other people have been to her farm and have adopted a sheep, which you can do too. And she, besides running a big, huge farm and lots of sheep and shearing, she is also a painter. And she has bought some of the prints of her paintings tonight for you to purchase. So if you're interested in that, please do so and help support her. So I'm gonna, without further ado, introduce Rachel Catlett, and she'll tell you a little bit more about herself and her farm.
Hi, Rachel. Hi. Thank you. I brought some prints. You don't have to buy them.
You have to buy
Can everybody hear me okay without this? I can talk pretty loud. I had 4 boys, so. So my name is Rachel Catlett. I live on and work on Brown Dog Farm. We're a smaller, it's a 40-acre farm and I actually have a little, made the slides, so I'll sort of do it. So basically we're a 40-acre farm, which is not big for a lot of farms, but for us it's perfect. I grew up in a military family and moved around a lot, but my parents my mother was from a ranching family in Colorado, and my dad was from a farm in Virginia. So I always got to go home to either of those 2 places, and I kind of always wanted to be a farmer when I grew up. But I went to art school and then graduate school, and then was a printmaker and a painter, and my kind of life took a left-hand turn, and I worked in horticulture, ornamental horticulture, for 30 years. I ended up at the Chicago Botanic Garden and then worked there for a while in urban horticulture, and then left the garden and worked in the on the North Shore of Chicago for landscape architect and doing kind of high-end estate gardening. When I met my husband, we lived up in Delavan, and he's a builder, and we kind of rehabbed old houses and I always had a hankering to be a farmer, and so the horticulture sort of segued into a big interest in regenerative agriculture, and I got a couple horses, and we started looking for a farm, and it took us a long time to find the right farm for us. So about 8 years ago, we purchased this 40-acre farm with my parents. My parents were in New Jersey at the time, and they decided to retire to the Sun Belt of the Midwest, Wisconsin. And so part of when we talk about farming, a lot of times we talk about what our context is. So, and those are basically sort of the givens. So our context is we're a 40-acre farm. We're in Walworth County. Our farm had a history as a sheep farm. There's varied topography on our farm. We kind of have some hills and we back up to wetlands. We were new farmers, so kind of our farm story has a lot to do with being new farmers. we didn't have a lot of farming equipment. So, and I don't really like machines, and my husband's a builder, and so he likes like woodworking things, but neither of us are big on being mechanics. It was an old farm, there was old infrastructure, there was an old house, that was probably kind of what attracted my husband to it. Old house, old barns, old sheds, a lot of old that needed to be fixed up. We had family needs because we're multi-generational. My parents were aging, and so when they bought the farm with us, there was one small house which we rehabbed, and then they came a little bit later, and my dad designed and built their home, which is right across the garden from ours. And since we had kids in and out of college, and then grands and parents, our farm needed to meet family needs too. We both also had off-site jobs, and the big thing was I did have these horses. So we needed to find a place where all those things could happen, and so we finally kind of found this place. Some of the most important things that drive the decisions that we make on our farm have to do with what our farm kind of goals were. And so our tenets on our farm is that we are multi-generational. So everything that we do has to take into account little kids and middle-aged and older people too. And that actually makes a big difference on what kind of operation, what kind of animals you have. The animals we have need to be safe. I have 3 granddaughters, that are 6 and under. My dad actually just recently passed away, but my mom is 85. And so all the animals and the infrastructure has to kind of marry up and match. We want our people to be safe also. We are a diverse farm. So we are a fiber farm that has sheep, but we also raise hay. Like a lot of small farms, you have to be diverse to be able to not lose the farm. So I contract grow vegetables for a restaurant. We've done flower farming. I'm a painter. My husband's a woodworker. We raise hay, and we raise sheep for meat and fiber. We're a smaller holding, so it's only 40 acres, and about not quite a third, but a good amount of our acreage is in certified wetland. So that takes away some of the acreage, and we have to be sensitive to that. We also are a member of the Livestock Conservancy, and we're really interested in raising heritage breeds. So we have our sheep are a heritage breed, and our chickens and ducks are also. So we're interested in maintaining that kind of genetics for rare and breeds that have a chance of being lost. Our community supported, so we have outreach to help people in our community support what we're doing. Education is important to us, and then we try to be artful too. Both my husband and I are artists, and we want to create a beautiful place for us to live and work. That's a little of the background. The people, so that's my husband, Ed, and I up there, and then this is my mom and dad, Bill and Sue Catlett. And so those are actually the people that are in residency right now, but we also have lots of friends and family, and our farm tends to be a place where we have family on both coasts, and they all kind of meet in the middle. So we have a lot of visitors. Those are the 2-leggeds, and of course we're named Brown Dog Farm because my husband has a penchant for adopting brown dogs. So our sign and our farm was named after the big guy in the middle, Raleigh, who's passed on now, but we've had Cody, Maxwell, my parents' dog Bounder. I have a little sheepdog Scout, and Ryder is our current Chesapeake Bay Retriever. So the sheep that we have, we kind of settled on the sheep with all of those sort of parameters. When I first got to the farm, I thought, well, maybe we'll raise cattle or regular. And then when I looked at our topography and the infrastructure and what we had and our setup, it became evident to me that sheep were kind of the best choice for us. So when I started thinking about the sheep, I wanted a heritage breed that was maybe in the Livestock Conservancy, because I have a network there of mentors. It needed to be a dual purpose animal, so for fiber and for food. We're very close to a lamb only processor. It's only 5 miles away. And I knew I have a son that's in the restaurant business. He's a chef. That lamb was, there's a high demand for that. So it would be a dual purpose. They needed to be relatively thrifty. We don't have great pastures. We've been improving them, but they needed to be seasonal breeders, which in sheep, being in a warmer climate, and a lot of the wool breeds are seasonal breeders, so they only are bred, come into the breeding season in like between October and December, and then they have their young in the early spring. Like we're on lamb watch as of yesterday. So and that's important for like the northern and wool breeds, because they don't want to be having babies like in the middle of the winter. So they come into season, they're daylight sensitive, so the ewes begin to cycle as the days become shorter. And then and then they stop cycling either once they're pregnant or when the days start getting longer. So those were important. And so and I love colors. Being a painter, I wanted a lot of different colored wool. It's also easier to tell a flock apart if you're going to name them all. If they all look exactly the same, it's tricky. But I loved all the different colors, and getting into fiber, I wanted to have a lot of variety. So we settled on Shetlands and Icelandics. So our flock is primarily Shetland, and then I have some Icelandics, and then we have some Shetland Icelandic crosses. Our farm actually came with a few animals, which is how I started sort of down the rabbit hole. When we bought our farm, it had been owned by the same family for 47 years, and Marilyn Jacobson was a fiber farmer and had a mixed fiber flock. Right about the time we bought our farm, she got sick, and actually I was able to meet her once, but then she passed away sadly. And so Mr. Jacobson was trying to get all of the animals to new homes, and he had gotten to the point where he just couldn't get rid of Nona, the guard llama, who was very old at the time, and a couple older ewes, and Bosco, the Angora goat. So we said, well, they can stay. So we kind of moved in with these animals, and they became my first teachers of how to be a good shepherd. We then fell in love with the Angora goats, so we added a few of those. Rita and Lilith were the Icelandic ewes that I traded shearing with my shearer at the time. He had a few too many, and so we did a barter, and they came, and my first flock was a flock of 5 little Shetland sheep. And so they came in the back of my husband's Subaru from near Viroqua. And we kind of fell in love with these little guys. I love Shetlands. They're small. They're easy for the kids to handle. They're like little puppy dogs. If you scratch their chest, they wag their tails. They're easy to handle. They're easy to, load and handle. They have handles on their heads. This is my, on the right here, and I still have him. He's changed a lot, but this was Hamish. He's my lead ram. And then we had Fergus. He was a ram. Wallace, the one on the left, he had kind of a funny horn and was cowhocked, but he had a beautiful fleece. So we castrated him, and he's what we call a wether. And then these were my 2 foundation ewes to start, Rose and Inya. So we got busy. Nona did her job watching them, and we sort of had our little flock going. So that was then. That's when we kind of had our first lambs. The one with the red tag, that's Enya. Her two first, these were the first lambs that were born on my farm. I still have them also, Gala and Grian. And in the back, there's that little striped horned ram was Rose's first ram. And so that's kind of where we were then. And this is kind of where we are now. So we have a mixed flock of about, during the height of the season, we go up to about 40. And in breeding time right now, I keep usually 10 to 12 breeding ewes. And I run 2 different lines of rams. So I have the Hamish line, and then I have a Morit line. Shetland sheep come in 13 different colors and about 32 combinations. They have all kinds of crazy names like Cat Moget and Gull Moget. But sheep are mostly either black based or brown based. Black is the dominant, and brown or Morit is a recessive gene. So we've got all the colors from white through black, so white and all different shades of gray through black. And then on the brown side, we have our lightest, what we call Morit sheep, or like a creamy kind of white through dark sort of chocolate brown, but we've got all the sort of shades in between. So it's been fun to match different rams with different ewes to see what we get, in terms of fleece. There's also in Shetland, and Shetlands have kind of, it gets more specific, but if you guys are fiber people, there are what we call fine fiber Shetlands that have super fine micron counts, and that's a single fleece. And then there are sort of more traditional, older, more primitive Shetlands that have, sometimes they'll call it a dog coat or a dual fleece, where you have some outer hairs and then the fine sort of undercoat. And the fine fleece tend to have a lot of tight crimp, and the dual purpose have more of a wavy. The Icelandics always usually have a dual coat. There's the tog and the tell, and one is a downy undercoat, and then the tell is that it's a little bit coarser and more wavy outer coat that can have a very long staple. About some of them, I have Lilith there. She the staple on hers is about 6 inches, so it's a long staple. For those of you that spin, both Shetland and the Icelandics especially are a longer staple. So I love those pieces. So this, I'm basically going to sort of take you through what a year of being a shepherd is like. So I always like to start the year at lambing, because that's like the beginning of everything. And it's actually what's happening right now. So right now, the breeding groups, and I'll talk about that later, but go from like mid-October to December, and then everybody gets separated back, because feeding wise, I like to make sure that those pregnant ewes have the best hay and the highest plane of nutrition. By this time of year, we have 3 separate groups. So I have all my rams, they've done their work. They can just hang out. They get put back together in a ram sort of boy kind of group, and they get fed like the bare minimum. So they're kind of out in an outer paddock. They all have beautiful fleeces, and they kind of just sag around all winter. Then there's the ewes, and I like to keep the rams separate in the winter time, because they do have the horns. They do tend to get pushy. And I want to make sure that the ewes don't have to fight for their food. So the ewes get the best kind of premium hay. And then I always have a group of ewe lambs. They would have been last year's lambs that we hold back. We don't breed. Shetlands tend to be slow growing animals. And so if I give them a whole year to fully mature, then they tend to be, for me, like by that second year, they tend to be fully grown, and so they have a really good chance of being bred back easily and being good lambs, good mothers. Sometimes young ewes that I've bred, ewes that are not over a year, sometimes they just aren't fully mature. Sometimes they're a little squirrely. They tend to not really know what's going on a little bit. But on the whole, Shetlands and Icelandic have great mothering traits. I rarely have to pull lambs. They're really good at what they do. So this is, for those of you that are mothers out there, you recognize this is a ewe that is right in the throes of labor. So she is about to give birth, and then these guys are just a day old. So they tend to give birth to twins, sometimes triplets, and within 10 or 20 minutes, they're up on their feet and nursing. I tend to have a very natural kind of program. Our ewes are able to be out because of these beautiful fleeces. I call them like the frosted mini wheats when they're out there all winter. They can go in, they have cover and a nice barn, but they actually prefer to be outdoors. So they have a pasture. We bale graze, so they can be out and have as much to eat as they want. Those are the big round bales, and we just sort of set them out, and then they eat as much as they want. And then if the weather gets inclement, they don't really love rain, so they'll go in. People will say, do they leave them out all winter? And yeah, they actually come really well prepared in terms of their fleeces, keep them quite warm. What they don't like so much is like the worst weather for us is like 40 degrees and rainy. Because if we have extended rain and it's that temperature, it's hard. It gets soggy and they don't like the rain. Once they do lamb though, whoops, went too many times. Once they do lamb, we put them in the barn. What we call jugging them up. So we jug up a mother and her lambs for about 24 hours just to make sure that the lambs know their mother knows them, that they're well fed, that they're learning how to nurse. You can tell a lamb latches on when you see. Once they latch on for the first time, their tail just wags like crazy. So we like to put them in jugs and then make sure, and after about 24 to 30 hours, when we make sure that all the mom is healthy and the babies are nursing well, then they go out, if the weather's inclement, into sort of these, it's like a big playpen in the lower level of our barn. At that point, they kind of just all run around and do fun things. Yeah, and you can see they come in all different colors. and they all get named usually about that time. Right after if the weather's nice, they graduate out into a lamb pen, and this is where they kind of learn how to be a flock. We don't ever wean our lambs off of our ewes. They stay with their mothers, and then after the flock gets shorn and we go into grazing, the whole flock stays together for the whole season until breeding time. So ewes, lambs, rams, everybody runs together. They all learn how to be sheep, and they're really smart at doing it. And if we let them stay together, the mamas teach the babies what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, what good things they can find in the pasture what foods are medicine, what foods you're not supposed to eat. And we find that it keeps everybody happier and less stressed. And that, I think it makes a difference in the fleece and in the quality of the animals. So the mamas first are in what we call the lamb pens, and then we rotationally graze during the grazing season, which means that our animals have to be trained to an electric fence. So the babies do go into a yard where we have what we call electro netting, and I don't know if I have a picture of it, but they all get trained, which means basically they run up to everything, they put everything in their mouths, and they run up to it, and then they get what we call it the zipper, and then they go wah, and run back to their mom, and then we know that they know not to touch the zipper. Once everybody has touched the zipper once, then we have them go out into the paddocks. And so this is like these guys' first chances out into the tall grass. And we graze sort of some tree-lined areas. And then comes shearing. Here, I can stop this for a second. So then the next big thing is shearing, and that usually happens the first week of May. Sorry. The first week of May. And run them all through the barn. The babies do this because the babies aren't getting sheared because the mothers are getting sheared. And then the mothers pop out into the pen and the babies are like, what happened to my mother? And they don't recognize each other. And, but everybody gets, the fleeces come off then. And that kind of dovetails in with the hot weather. And they really do get uncomfortable with all of this fleece. So shearing is a big deal. We have a party. We invite people to come and help. Usually my son or my husband are, getting the sheep in, but then people come and they can help with the skirting and the bagging and the tagging of all the fleeces. Then we have a big picnic and clap for the shearer and make sure he gets a lot of food. It's really hard work. And then we watch the sheep. We pretty much just laugh at the sheep because they're all trying to figure out. Sheep are very hierarchical and they have a pecking order. And a lot of it is by scent and by sight. And you can imagine if, you got to know people and then the next time you saw them, they had no clothes on. They look a lot different and they smell funny. It's kind of fun to just watch them all. Like the babies don't know where their mothers are. And then the other, the head moms or the matriarchs get challenged by, the younger moms, and the rams are so excited that everybody is back together. So it's kind of a fun deal. But that pretty much begins our summer grazing season. So now they will go out onto our big pastures. This is like the first day, you can tell. There's a video here. They're all kind of naked. I always look at them and I think, oh my gosh, you poor things, you look so skinny. But they kind of all head up. The babies are just developing their mature fleeces, but the moms look kind of lean. And they begin to learn how to be in a flock, which moms not to bother with, which rams to not get in the way. And at this time, we have all of these bags of fleeces. And this is when I really know who my friends are. I have friends that are like, oh, I'll come skirt fleeces for you. And so far, the only one that's lasted more than like 20 minutes. I have a lot of people that
after they're sheared, how do you keep track of them?
Oh, after they're sheared. So that's a big deal. The shear, like my mom is in charge of bagging and tagging, and usually I have 4 or 5 people. So the fleeces come off. The shearer, he will sit them on their, like we saw him, he'll sit them on their backside. We will clip their feet. We'll check, horns on the rams to make sure nothing's too close or anything needs to be cleaned up. Then they shear them, and then that fleece gets kind of a little bit, it has to go fast because it only takes him like 5 or 8 minutes to shear a sheep. Sometimes the rams are obstreperous and it takes them a little bit longer. But that fleece gets just a little bit of skirting, not a lot, but it just gets wrapped up and it gets put into a big bag, big plastic bag with a tag with a name. And then those things just get piled up. Once shearing is over with, and they usually are there for like a month, 2 months, 3 months. It usually takes me almost all summer to go through each fleece, and I put them out on what we call a skirting table, and you'll lay the whole fleece out, and then you'll pick off all the daggy bits. You'll get a lot of the big sticks and twigs and burdock, little, yeah.
So what is skirting exactly?
Skirting is cleaning the shorn fleece. So the idea that you go all around the outside of the skirt, the hem of the skirt, kind of, and so you're pre-cleaning it for the first few years. I processed all my fleeces, and then there just got to be too many. So I do use the mill in Northern Illinois, the Northern Illinois Fiber Mill. And they will process my fleece by animal. That's why I kind of choose them. A lot of big mills want you to put like all the white together, all the gray together, all the black together, and then they batch them. Our farm, because we market specifically to fiber artists and people that are interested, you can meet the sheep and then find that by that fleece or that roving. That's why our bags of roving, when I get them all rolled up, then they go in the bag that has their name on them. So this is Elsbeth, and this is all of her roving. And then if I actually spin the yarn, that yarn tag has her name on it, or the name of whichever animal. Sometimes I'll do a blend, but you'll have that. So we actually track from the sheep all the way to the final product. And we do have people, and I'll talk about that later in our sponsor sheep program, that want a specific color of fleece. And so they can come meet that sheep and then, 9 to 18 months later, have that yarn from that same sheep. So that's just how we kind of niche down and makes us what's maybe a little bit different from, I don't buy wool anymore. So yeah.
She asked, how do you keep the sheep apart? How do you know which sheep is which once you've shorn them? Do they have a tag in their
Oh,
ear?
no, I know them. I know what that's what makes me a shepherd. No, my mother sometimes, my husband's like, they're all named Gromit to me, but no, they all have specific markings. Because I'm there when they're born, I know this one has one back foot, or this one has a funky tail, or the first sheep flock that I had tags, but I don't tag since they all have names. And at this point, I don't confuse them. I pretty much know. They also, sheep have personalities. So and just like people. And so they all act a little bit different, and they have family traits that, mothers will pass down. Like there's that little black ewe, my first ewe that I ever sort of was born, Gala, and her babies all have the same personality. And when I walk into the field, she meets me. She's the first one to come up and talk to me, and she kicks me, and then she headbutts me, and we have the same sort of thing. And all of her offspring are very similar. So they do have personalities. So anyway, this cat is the only one who really likes to skirt fleece with me. She's a pain in the butt. But anyway. So we pick off all the poopy bits and the big pieces of twigs, and then they get refolded up and go in and get stored until they all go to the mill. So that's kind of what goes on in the summer. So this is, we do what they call rotationally grazing. So our big 5-acre pasture, I did get an EQIP grant from the U.S. The Natural Resources Conservation District, and they have a grant where they will cost share for improvements for farmers that are willing to do projects that help soil. And so rotational grazing is part of a regenerative farming practice. And so this is what we do. And so I don't know if you can see, there's like, basically they're trained to these 2 electric lines. And these paddocks are, we have a 5-acre field that's subdivided into 3 different sort of sections. And then they get a strip to basically graze every day. So each day I move this fence just like a little bit longer. It's about 0.2 of an acre. And what that does is basically the system is the animals come in and they eat the tops off what's there, and they're fenced out of all the other areas. So they're always eating like the best of the grass, and it's a diverse blend. This is not just like, it's about a 10 species mix. So there's grass, but there's alfalfa, but there's clover, there's chicory, there's plantain, there's a bunch of other species. So we have a diverse species blend, which is really good for these animals and really good for the soil. And we're always trying to think about building the soil microbiology. We kind of call ourselves actually grass farmers, and these animals are how we manage and maintain our soil. So all of our farm is under 100% perennial coverage. So the ground is covered everywhere on all 40 acres. We do no tilling. So there's no tillage, there's no disturbing of the soil. I am really adamant about having 100% coverage and sequestering as much carbon in the soil as we can to build up that microbiology. So these animals help us maintain these grasses in a constantly growing living stage. And then once they're grazed a section, they're moved off of it. And so a lot of the acreage is being rested and growing, and then they are kind of maintaining it. So every day I go out, I move the fence, they follow me out, they go into the new section. Because they're sheep, they like to go back to the shade, so they come and go. And every day they get a new section. And then we rotate through like 31 paddocks. And then by the time we get back to the ones that we first rotated, they've been able to regrow. So there's a lot of rest. So our paddocks have developed very deep root systems, and they stay big and green for most of the year. So
What about the sheep droppings?
Oh, well, they're out there, and sheep droppings are very small, so they're fertilizing everywhere they go. So, and each section, because they're bunched up in smaller sections, they're not like spread out just eating what their favorite things. They're bunched up in a smaller flock. So in the summertime, the sheep are also out there with the goats and the horse. Before we had the llama, but she passed away. So now, for some reason, one of my horses thinks she's a llama, and she wants to be with the sheep all the time. So they're all together. So all those animals are kind of bunched up in a small area. So they graze very evenly. And then they poop and pee very evenly. And then they move to the next section. So they are our fertilization. So we bring in no outside inputs. We don't fertilize our pastures. We don't, they're it. And it's the way we move them across the land that helps us do it that way. So there's basically 6 fundamentals or principles of regenerative farming, which makes it maybe different from conventional. And those are that we avoid chemicals. We are not certified organic, but we use no chemicals. It's just another sort of thing that I would have to get and have somebody come out. But after working in horticulture for many, many years, I understand the issues with chemicals, and so we use no chemicals. The other thing that we do is we don't till the soil, so we don't ever turn over the soil, so we're never damaging the soil structure. We maintain what I talked about before, soil cover, so there's never bare ground. We also try to increase diversity in plant and animal. So we have a lot of different animals. Everybody does a different job. Different animals like different plants. We also, when we originally reseeded our pastures 8 years ago, they were put into a very diverse pasture blend. Because of that, each plant targets, there are certain microbes in the soil that target certain kinds of plants. More plants mean more different kinds of root systems. More plants mean more microbes in the soil. More diversity means more resilience. We also try to keep living roots in the soil at all times. So even in our vegetable gardens, we'll put in a cover crop and let that green up over the winter. And then the last thing is that you integrate livestock as part of this. So the livestock are your fertilization program. Your livestock are provide your ecosystem services. They're doing our mowing, they're doing our fertilizing, and they're growing beautiful fiber and protein with just what the sun and the soil provides. So it's a nice closed system. Some of the benefits of regenerative ag are improved soil health. I talked a little bit about the diversity of plant material and animals gives us a diversity of microbiology in the soil. It helps with climate change mitigation. All this grass is drawing carbon out of the atmosphere and keeping it tied up in the soil. We're trying to do our part. It helps with increased resilience in droughty times and in times of, we are very resilient having coverage all the time. The soil is always covered, so the soil temperatures stay more even. We don't lose as much water with a deeper, more living soil. Our soils filter water, so the runoff that comes out of our farm is very clean and clear. We're pretty sensitive because we back up to some wetlands, and my mom's a big birder, and we keep bird counts and trying to build that diversity that way. It helps with our water management, and it enhances biodiversity. In the summertime, we kind of get into this routine of, grazing, moving. I go out every morning, move the fence. The animals come in, they go out, and that's the time where we do have to put up our hay. We have a big hay field, and we get 2 or 3 cuttings, depending on the summer. So we put up a lot because we don't bring in grain, and our animals get fed our hay all winter. It is Wisconsin. It gets to a point where we can't graze anymore, and so they eat the hay that we grow. We also big fences, the building. My husband's always on a ladder on his old barns, and we grow a lot of vegetables and do all that sort of things. Towards the end of the summer, we sort of have to come to, I call it decision time. It's late August and September. At that point, we're looking at animals, we're looking at fleeces. I have a good network of other starting shepherds, and I like to have a lot of people out to our farm and share knowledge. I've benefited from having some really great mentors, and we try to pass that along. So we do sell starter flocks, and people can come out and we'll see which animals. The thing about sheep and fiber animals is that you actually need more ewes than rams. And so usually a lamb crop is about 50% rams and lambs. And unless an animal has a really beautiful fleece, sometimes we'll send our fleeces down to Texas State, and they do micron count. So we have fleeces that are have counts down to around the low 20s, 20 to like 26, 28. I don't know if you really want to get technical about micron counts of actual fiber, but Shetland is very fine fleece. It's very soft. It's not scratchy at all. And so if we have an animal that has a super low micron count, we might keep that male back. But we sell breeding rams, and then we do have some crossbred Icelandic and Shetland crosses, and those do become, there is a big demand. They are meat animals for meat. So we do take orders, and those guys get processed. They have a really great life. They never get weaned. They're with their mothers all the time. And by usually late November to December, they take a 5-mile trip down the road. And we stock our freezer and have lamb, at our farm store, or people buy whole animals usually. On these animals, they're smaller than the average sort of carcass. So they're great for people that are interested in them. It's very tasty. But so those are typical of what we have. These rams would be market rams. That was a ram. We always look for a good wide horn set and really nice fleece that would be sold, and those are typical of like a starter flock that would go to somebody else. So we're making decisions about sales, animals that'll go off the farm, culling, and then my favorite part is thinking about who do I want to keep myself. Even when we do harvest, we like to use everything. And I have a great relationship with my processor, and I get back all the heads and hides. They get processed and go to the Driftless Traditional Tannery out in they're in Paoli. And then we get the hides back. So they go through a beautiful traditional mimosa bark tanning that's very low, no chemicals. And then we get these gorgeous hides back. And I can't keep them on the website. They get sold right away. Then we set everybody into breeding groups. So I have 2 lines. And this is that little ram that my first year, this is Hamish now. He's my big dude. And so they will be in breeding groups the rams get matched up with the ewes that I want to match them with. They go in about October, and they'll come out of those breeding groups in about December. These are the frosted mini wheats, I call them. But they like to be out. Winter's also the time that I have a on-farm store, and I get some winter work in, and that's a lot of time when I do process. That's about the time where I get wool back from the mill. So late November, it's usually when I get wool back is when I drop off. So all of those bags get dropped off, and they come back from the mill, and I have it milled into roving, and it's usually in a big box. And then my mom and I wrap up the balls of roving into like 3-ounce balls. And so we sell the roving in 3-ounce balls, and they go into the store. And then whatever doesn't sell, or what I do like to spin, I can knit, but by the time you finish all this farming and all this sort of stuff, I love to spin at night because it's kind of zen-like. And my husband, I get in front of the wood stove and I can just spin, and it's very relaxing. If I start to knit, I have to count, and then I fall asleep. or things go all wonky. But I do like spinning and making the yarn. And then this is how it looks on like our website, so that if you like, this is Lilith, this is the ewe, that's what, and that's her yarn. So you can actually know what the yarn came from the animal. I think that's kind of fun. And so I spin and I do that kind of stuff in the winter time, and then we wait. And it's a very beautiful place to live. and we wait and wait, and the girls wait. This is one of my favorite ewes over here. Her name is Boing. She's a half Icelandic, half Shetland, and that's one of my really nice ewes that we held back this year. And we'll see how she develops. Her name is Vig. She's a beautiful little Morit. The thing that we do that sets us also a little bit apart, and it's where we tie in with our community. I don't know if you're familiar with the idea of community-supported agriculture, but a CSA, a lot of times you'll have those with vegetables, and so people buy shares. And so we do the same thing with our fiber and with people wanting to get connected with how our local fiber is grown and what kind of small farms you have around you. So we just offer it up, and people can, we have two options. We have ewe sponsors, or we have lamb parents. And the ewe sponsors are usually people will sponsor a ewe for a year, and you can come out, you can visit her, you can see her babies, you can come to our shearing, you can come see lambing, you can come play with the lambs, you can come and have a picnic. Our farm is sort of out and open to you, and for a year, and there are a few little premiums, cards and artwork and that kind of stuff. And at the end of that year, that fleece that she grows that year that you sponsored her, when that fleece comes off and goes to the mill, when it comes back, it's yours. So you have a whole fleece. You can choose to have it. You can take it raw. I mean, I have some people that like to process the whole fleece themselves. This is Ellie Barbeau. She's a spinner, and she usually picks up one, but she and her girls sponsored Little Fig there. But you get to, and so you get the whole fleece. And if you want it in any different weight yarn that our mill does, you can do that too for a little upcharge. There's also lamb parents, and these are very popular with people with little children. The kids get to come out. It helps us in a couple ways, because the more our sheep are very friendly, but the more sheep are handled and have more exposure to people, that easier it is for us to handle them. If they get sick or if they get hurt, it's nice to be able to catch them, and they're not afraid of you, and not have to use a dog to pet them up. So we have this another option called lamb parents, and when the lambs are born, you can come and you can choose the one. You get to name it. Again, there's some premiums, there's some little things. I send you updates, and then when that lamb has her first fleece, you get the whole fleece of that one too. So that's sort of the way that we like to have people come and support our work and what we do. We also try to do some on-farm events. Last year we did a farm to yarn class with Ellie, and we came and did a farm walk, and people got to walk and meet the sheep, and then we had a picnic, and then Ellie taught how to spin with a drop spindle, and so people could actually get the fleece they wanted and then learn how to spin. And this year we are a part of our watershed. We're doing we're having a twilight farm walk on May, I think it's the 13th. And so we'll have a potluck, and people will walk the pasture and meet the sheep. And that's one thing. And then our shearing day is May 15th. And that's a big party too on our farm. So we're always welcome to people who want to. We have a website. It's browndogfarmwi.com. I'm also a painter. I make paintings about rural life and sheep and stuff like that. You can buy paintings there. You can buy things my husband makes. That's what we do.
Thank you.
I understand you also have, is it chickens and ducks?
Oh yeah.
Are you affected by bird flu and how are you affected?
Yeah, so bird flu is something that, does affect anybody that has flocks. We keep our closed, flock, but, because they free range, this is how I've been affected. I have had animals die, but I'm sure that's what it is. I don't have them tested, because if I were to go and have them tested, the state says that if you get tested, you have to destroy all your animals. Like any disease, there are animals, and believe me, I vaccinate my children and everything, but there are animals that are resistant. And if you destroy all the animals that are resistant, then you have no built resistance. So my experience in the past 3 years, and this year I have 40 plus chickens and ducks. I lost 2 hens this winter to what I think was that. They were not hens that were, they were actually hens that a friend, anyway, brought to my farm. So they were not hens that are mine. They were also of a different breed. I have not lost any of my heritage breed, and that is not, I'm not a vet, I'm not a scientist. I'm just saying the way we keep our animals, I haven't, these were 2 that came in and then just 1, and then within like 10 days, another one. Same symptoms, their symptoms that were, they got separated, they passed away. I haven't had any more of a flare up, but we do practice, like I have farm boots, but I don't wear my farm boots out on any other farm. And most of the people in my farming community know, farmers know we don't wear our boots on somebody else's farm. So there are just some common sense things. It doesn't affect the eggs. It doesn't, and we don't have meat birds, but we do, eat the eggs. But that's what I know. It's kind of tragic, and I feel bad for a lot of the egg producers, but part of it is the way the animals are raised, which also promotes the spread of disease. So our birds come in, every night, but they have a large, a chicken house, and they're outside all the time, even in the winter. They and they're healthy. So that's all I know about it.
Anybody else have a question?
We have coyotes here.
Yeah.
Do you have them?
Oh yeah, we back up to the wetlands. I hear them every night. And so the guard llama, Nona. So a lot of times people have, you can have livestock guardian dogs or livestock guardian animals. And so we were lucky to have this beautiful llama for many, she passed away actually about 6 months ago. So they are great to run with the sheep. They're naturally, they don't like canines. So they're tall. They eat the same things the sheep are. They bed down. They're very kind of with them, and they alert the sheep. But so far, our coyotes don't bother our sheep. I don't know, it's because we have the llama. We also have, dogs. They have enough, I guess. And we've been advised that to not do anything about them, because if I were to go and remove them, more coyotes would probably come in, and I think I don't know that they would be as nice to my sheep. So I'm just keeping the ones that I have, and they kind of stay on their side. They don't like the electric fence. Our big pasture, the perimeter is 5-wire high tensile, but it's electrified and it's hot. So they don't, and they have enough. So we just live with. Occasionally they'll take out, barn cat or duck. We've lost ducks that won't come off the pond in the evening and come back in. But for the most part, but we hear them all the time.
Anybody else?
Do you keep track of which rams you mate with which?
Oh, yeah. You can line, what they call line breeding, but I'd like to not. There's enough, I like to maintain sort of diversity. So that's the tricky widget, like Rubik's Cube that I have to do like in September, like who can go with who. And that has a lot of the decision making about when I put together starter flocks. I try to put together unrelated animals. And so the ones that I'll keep back, and eventually I will probably have to retire, you kind of retire a ram. I'm able to use Hamish because I have the original girls, but I won't breed his daughters and granddaughters back to him. So my secondary line is, like I have a newer ram right now, Gunner, and then over time, Gunner girls can't, you just don't. You can do it maybe once, but usually not twice. And if you have enough rams, you don't have to worry about that. So I try not to.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, feel free to see how, I'll pass this around. This is really soft. So this is the Icelandic, and that's, they don't separate the tog and tail for me, so it has both fibers. And then this is.
Is there a way to separate them?
Yeah, you can card them. Mills have carders,
Okay.
specific carders, but I like minimally processed yarn. So you will find bits of our farm, and if you spin, some of it comes out, and every time. But I find the most the least amount of processing, you still maintain the quality of the yarn. Every time you process, either with chemicals or another process, you lose sort of the natural woolness of the wool. So, superwash is great to be able to wash, but you've lost, because of the processes that superwash has to go through, you lose some of the wonderful qualities about wool. So,
Thank you.
ours is less.
Oh my gosh. And then we'll take like a 5-minute break if you want to come look at her paintings real quick. And then we'll do show and tell. For as you know, we're chop running on time, so we have a little time. So come up and look at our paintings and take a bathroom break and whatever you need.
No, I mean, you can, but I mostly,
Losing grade.
Yeah.
Okay. The first person up for show and tell is Rosemary.
Use the microphone. Your voice isn't that good. Good evening. I already found somebody else who will recognize my vest I have on and just downloaded it today. So this is called the Timbo vest. It's on Ravelry. The designer is Gabriella Calderini. I changed pattern because I did it. It was a top down, but I kept it in the round all the way down. The new thing I learned on here, which I was surprised because I didn't read the very end of the pattern, was it said to do the bind off in Elizabeth Zimmerman bind off. Has anybody else in here ever done one? I expect you. Who else has? Somebody else raise their hand. And because I had it around, the first directions I found was for piecing, and that didn't work. So then I went back out and looked, and then I could match that on Schoolhouse Press with their directions to say I was finally on the right one. So I had about a third done, unraveled it all, and redid it. It is a wonderful thing to do. It's interesting, it's time consuming, but it is a beautiful, beautiful thing to do. Thank you.
Next is Jen. Hey, Jen.
Ooh.
Did you need your slip?
Brought my reading glasses too.
You need a pair?
No, I'm good. I'll just. Hi, I'm Jen, and this is my hat. Thank you, Mary, my model here.
Ooh.
It's brioche, and I love it. I saw that pattern in Ravelry one day and just fell in love with it. So I took a class with Sean so that I could learn how to brioche. And then I took the advanced class because I still didn't think I was capable of doing that. So 2 other projects later, I finally got to do this. I absolutely love it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So, once I unraveled the first 4 rows about 10 times, it was great. But this is acrylic, it's worsted, and I will probably say this wrong, so I'm sorry to the lovely lady who invented it, the Lilla line by Raina Cruz. But it took me a week, and which I was really surprised too, but I love it. So
Beautiful.
I really don't wear hats, but now I'm going to.
Yes.
So,
Courtney.
here's the inside. So you could reverse it.
Do you need your slip?
Sure. So you need the model? Sure.
Oh,
So this
it's
is
got
a
kitties on
cowl.
it.
It's a test knit for the doodle patterns, Jamie Womack's Pacific Knit Code. This was her cat doodles and dog doodles that just came out. I used Barocco Vintage DK. And then the fun part about this one was that I have a white cat and a tuxedo cat, so I got to customize the faces to match.
Oh, it's so stinking cute.
And so it took me about a month, but it was well worth it. This is the second test knit I've done for her. I'm about doodled out right now.
Wow.
So it's knitted around, right? But then once you get around, how do you join it
It's Kitchenered
all the way
together.
around? Okay.
Mhm. Yep. So,
Wow.
which I have not perfected Kitchener in the round yet, so
Even
it's,
after all that.
yeah, it's a little wonky.
We don't care.
It's not wonky.
It's beautiful.
Okay, anybody else have any new business, old business, nothing?
Okay, no.
Okay, meeting?
Yeah.
I have a business.
Wait, we're gonna do the meeting. I meant program-wise, sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay. All right, I have notes. Because I'm recording this on YouTube, I don't have any slides, so we're gonna wing it. All right, so, we'll start the business part of the meeting. Anybody wanna call it to order? Oh boy, these Robert rules, I tell ya.
actually, you don't need to have a motion to start. Just start. Close.
I would like to make a motion to never use Robert's rules.
I second that.
Okay, so any opposed? Get out. Robert's rules of order. Nothing makes.
I think it's called for in our, bylaws, so we'll have to amend the bylaws and get rid of Roberts.
I just read through them and I don't think they are. Okay, so we're gonna start this meeting. At the March meeting, we, according to the bylaws, we need to give a synopsis of the different positions that are available on the board and as the chair people overseeing a committee. Because I would say we have about 10 minutes and I don't want to just stand up here and bore you to death. You need to drive home. I will put all of this information into the newsletter, but I can tell you what positions are going to be open so that if you would like to volunteer and put your name in the hat, you can do that. I wonder if I can just, okay. Okay, so in March, the committee needs to be formed for election. So I am in need of, or the Guild is in need of, an election chair. Would I have someone who could possibly do it, but I would really love someone who's not already on the board or committee chair to be part of it. Would anybody be interested in chairing the election committee? If not,
How about naming the responsibilities, maybe?
yeah, the election committee is responsible for finding names and tallying votes and making sure that the election is done, whatever our bylaws say, it has to be done in certain months. So like March, a committee is formed. In April, the open positions are announced. In May, volunteers, if you're interested in a position, you would submit your name to the committee. And then in June, the names are announced. And then in July, we vote. So it is a very systematic committee, I will say. I've done it in the last 2 years, and it's basically like working with the people on the board to and recruiting people to fill those roles. So we'll not be doing that this year. Anybody who wants more information can contact me. You can email me at my email address, or you can also find me, email the Guild. That would be easier. info@greatermilwaukeeknittingguild.com. All right, and then these are the open positions. We're just going to skip through April. Right now, we have an open position for a secretary. So if you'd be interested in becoming the secretary, I would love for you to come forward and let me know.
We also have an open position, vacancy for education. So those are 2 positions that need to be filled, that are vacant as of right now. And then the open positions for the following guild, for the next guild year, the upcoming guild year, is president. I won't be seeking re-election. The vice presidency will be open. The programs chair will be open. The events chair will also be open. And I think that's it. The returning positions will be membership. Mary Pat will continue. The newsletter, Erica Strabel, will also be continuing to do that. Community warmth, Susan, will continue. And then publicity, Jenna. And state fair, Karen. Treasurer will be returning. So those are the positions that are open, 2 vacancies currently, and then returning. So keep that in mind as we go forward. The other point of for an update, just as like a general meeting courtesy, etiquette maybe, is the donation table at the back. So not to be confused with community warmth. Those donations for the programs and organizations that we partner with, but rather if you as a member have things that you want to pass along to people in the guild, you are welcome to do that. We don't want to get into a situation that happened last month where someone came in and just dumped a bunch of stuff there that was not knitting related, and they didn't take it. They weren't a member. The stuff they wanted some money for it. So we are only accepting donations to be placed at that table if you are a member, because you know what's good, you know what can be passed along. We want to, continue, the generosity of the people, but we want to also limit it. And because those people who can contribute to the donation table are members, you will also be responsible for taking it with you at the end of the evening. So at 7:30, whoever has stuff on that table needs to collect it and take it with you, because we had a lot of stuff that we had to take with us unexpectedly. So thank you, Mary, for dropping that off at the Goodwill. So that's that. Okay, so there are a lot of board and chair people not here tonight. So updates for committee reports are treasurer. That report was in the newsletter. Crystal, do you want me just to read it? There was no deposits or expenditures last month, so our balance was $5,884.53. Membership, we have 92 members, and if you have friends who want to join, we do have mid-year membership options are on the website for $15 for the remainder of the year, or a 6-month. All right, community warmth. There is a current drive of knitted socks, sock yarn, knitted baby blankets and toys, and baby blanket yarn. Those items will be donated to the Milwaukee Rescue Mission, and then the baby blankets, toys, and other little items will be donated to the Ronald McDonald House. If you have items that you want to drop off, you can see Carol. Carol, can you raise your hand? Sorry, I made you stop knitting. Oh. You can see her, and she has a tote where you can put your donation. So thank you to all those who donate. If this is your first time donating, thank you. If it's your millionth time donating, thank you.
How long does that drive go?
That goes until March. Well, we're in March.
I think
It's a quarter. I don't know. I don't share it, but I'm going to say through the end of next month. Yeah. When in doubt, just, we really want to keep in mind that we're donating to specific programs. So you can always reach out to us and we'll get back to you. Okay. And then, nothing to report for education. There was an update in the newsletter. Programs, next month's program is going to be Howard Zabler. He's here, and he's going to be talking about square knitting. Yes, he concurs. Newsletter and website. The newsletter may appear a little differently for the next couple of months because she's reformatting a few things, so do not be alarmed. You should get it. It's going to be delivered in the same way. It just might look a little different. So that's that. And then finally, State Fair. The categories have been chosen. I do have them. Do you want me just to tell? Okay. So the categories that the Milwaukee Guild will be sponsoring for an award in those categories. The theme for the State Fair is digging deeper. And the 4 categories, one is fisherman's sweater. The second one is a shawl. The third one is a Wisconsin mascot toy amigurumi knitted. And then the last category is someone who is a brand new entry to the fair. So those will be the 4 categories where they'll receive an extra ribbon and an extra award, a prize of $30 for each person who takes first place. Okay, so what did I forget?
Erica contacted me. She's interested in the history of the Greater Milwaukee Knitting Guild.
Erica did?
Yes.
Or Jenna?
No, Erica contacted me. I don't know if Jenna started this. Erica is our newsletter.
The person. So Erica wants a history of the guild.
Right. I haven't been a member of the guild as long as some of the people I see in this room. So if you're interested, you can contact me or Erica.
Okay, we'll have you contact info at greatermilwaukeeknittingguild.com. We're trying to get all of those random communications through the same email so that there's one space. And if you see them at the meeting, she's not here, but that is a great way to communicate. Yes.
I have the community warmth needs. So it's adult socks for Milwaukee Rescue Mission through May,
Okay.
and then blankets for Ronald McDonald House, any size, through August.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Any other final things before we adjourn for the evening? Okay, sounds good. If I forgot anything, please forgive me. If you are in, you want to do some extra volunteering, come and see me after the meeting and I will put you to work. And that's it. So thank you again to Rachel Catlett for a wonderful program. Okay, be well.